That's right, the War Academy is back. I'm going to help you not suck so much at Warhammer. We're going to get you your PhD in 40K. This is just part one to most likely a mini part series to help you not be so bad at 40K. In this video series, I'm going to try to convey what 26 years of playing 40K competitively has taught me to you guys. One of the first steps to getting that PhD in Warhammer is going and hitting that subscribe button, because I have a lot more videos on the way that are all designed to just make you a better player. Do it. So in a nutshell, why you lose is because you don't know your units.
No, this is me in a nutshell. Help! I'm in a nutshell! How did I get into this nutshell?
So in this video, we're going to focus on not just knowing your units, but understanding your units, and then understanding how to apply those units. So we're going to go over how to make a winning army, a competitive army, regardless of the models that you own. As long as you follow this system, it doesn't matter that you're not the meta, you'll still be able to do very well.
Would you like to know more?
So if we look at the maps in 10th edition, we'll notice that there's a trend. And the trend is that you have one home objective, and then there's 3 objectives across the middle. Now to simplify this, we're going to label one of these objectives the Killzone Objective, and this is the place on the map where the fight's happening, where the most important fight's happening. Then you usually have your Secure Objective, which is the objective that you're the most confident that you're going to hold, your Home Objective in your backfield, then your Harassment Objective, which is the same thing as your opponent's Secure Objective. So in addition to action monkeys and a rapid ingress unit, these are the 6 fundamentals of making a list. So before I break each one of these down, I want to bring to everyone's attention that this method doesn't really work if you try to just apply it to an existing list that you already have, because the units aren't there for the same reasons. So I highly recommend just making a new list from scratch and going over each section one by one, and let the list tell you what it needs to be, what it needs to have added next. So when you make your list, the first thing that you want to add is what's going to be going to the Killzone Objective. So this is something that's, you're going to be really confident that it's going to hold the point, and whatever your opponent throws at you, it's just going to bounce off, and or you'll just be able to deal with it. Generally, you want a pretty good mix of very tanky and high damage output. So a lot of times these units are going to have your long-range fire support shooting over the top of their heads, so they will have plenty of covering fire, but you're going to want really tanky things. So the 10-man Deathwing Command Squad, a big squad of Squig Hog boys, things that can get access to Feel No Pains. You're going to be ready to use your stratagems that are defensive on this unit. This is your hammer and your anvil, and they are not always going to be fighting over the middle objective, but generally that's where the fight's going to happen, unless either player is too scared to actually go there. Another unit that helps get the Killzone Objective started is infiltrators that can start just like behind a piece of terrain off to the side, and then immediately threaten that middle objective so that your opponent has to either shoot them off of it or try to charge onto it to take it from you, in which case you're ready with a counter charge. So you basically want to keep adding units until you're confident that no one's going to take this objective from you. So you might have 10 Lich Guard or something on there, and then that might not be enough, because what if you run into 10 other Lich Guard? So you might add something like a Satan. Once you can tell yourself there is no way someone's removing me from this point, then you're ready to go on to the next point. So some examples of really good units to fight at the Killzone Objective are going to be things like 10 Deathwing Knights backed by Hellblasters. Like, that can deal with the majority of things, especially if, if there's a squad of Devastators behind that can deal with whatever threats coming at you. You can always do multiple waves of MSU, because activations are king. More activations means more ability to implement your strategy based on what's going on at the moment. Now, the Killzone Objective is the most dangerous place on the battlefield to be, so usually you don't want to send your big single entity models there. If you have a big expensive 400 plus point model, don't send him to the kill zone. Even though that's where your instinct might tell you where to put him, he's gonna get wrecked. You want to keep a lot less firepower on your big scary things. If you have 10 Chosen with a Chaos Lord backed by a Vindicator, you can put that Rhino on there and drop off those Chosen and really securely hold that middle. It's going to be a lot of work for your opponent to dig that out. Same thing with something like the 6 Squig Hogs and a Smash a Squig. That's a lot of damage you have to do, and you got to commit hard if you want a chance to take that. And if you don't commit hard enough to take this Killzone Objective, then you just put all that pressure on for nothing.
What are you?
An idiot sandwich.
So I kind of like to think the kill zone is the most important objective to fight over, because it's kind of like a game of poker. Someone says, I put 10 Lich Guard on the kill zone objective, and you say, well, I raise your 10 Lich Guard with 10 Lich Guard and a Satan, and you're just doing that in different versions with each army until somebody wins. So now the secure objective, and I call it the secure objective because it's the one that you're fighting the least over. So what you'll notice, especially by like turn 3 in almost every game of 40k, is you're going to have one objective that you're holding really well, one that you're fighting really hard over, and one that you don't hold very well at all. So think of it as like when you pull the secondary card, tempting target, and your opponent picks an objective in no man's land that you have to take. That's a really hard one to score because they're always going to pick their secure objective. So you can kind of control which one's going to be your secure objective, especially if you're outnumbered. If you're outnumbered and like bigger and tougher than your opponent, then you almost always get to choose which one is your secure objective. Whereas most horde armies kind of have to feel out the opponent and see where his largest presence is, and then take the one that the opponent doesn't want as your secure objective. So in general, you want something that has a really low target priority. So battle line function well at this. A great example is like heavy intercessors. You don't want to shoot heavy intercessors. It's way too much work for what you gain. And they can still shoot while they're there. It's not very threatening, but the odds that they're going to get a bunch of focus fire on them is pretty low. So your big scary single entity models can also use this as a launching point to start pressing into your opponent's deployment zone if that's what you choose is wise to do. This is a great flanking way that's usually pretty clear of enemies, letting you kind of hook around. It's just much safer than being in the middle of the board. So battle line units are also great for this just because they have high OC. So if your opponent does want to try to contest you over it, he's got to do it with more models. But the secret one that a lot of people don't think about is if you have a model that's able to resurrect at the end of the phase, it's one of the best things to hold your secure objective in the entire game. So a good example is like Eldar have the Fugan dragon leader guy. So at the end of the phase, once the shooting is done, he's able to resurrect. So the game is so shooty right now that a lot of times he's going to resurrect and all your guns are done. So you have to charge him now if you wanted to secure that kill, or he's just going to keep holding that objective, which next turn you can shoot him again and then finally get rid of him. But it's kind of a oh shit button that extra secures your home objective or your secure objective. So some examples of some units that can help make sure that your secure objective stays secure. I think heavy intercessors are one of the best units to do. No one wants to shoot them, and they have high OC, they're durable. They're a great unit to secure your objective. Maleceptors or warriors, depending on the type of Tyranid list that you're playing, a Maleceptor can still dish out a lot of range damage, and no one wants to actually like threaten that because they'd have to come up to the Maleceptor to take it. Same with warriors. Hybrid units are very, very, very good at this. A 3-man Squig Hog unit can do it, because the rule of thumb with this is you want to try to keep it around 100 points, and unless it has a really good gun. So just like the Killzone Objective, a Squig Hog unit can do this too. But you have to know why you're putting it in the list. It can defend this objective, but it's probably better used attacking. But if you have multiple units, if you're adding the thing to the list that you want to do this job, the job is to sit in the secure objective. So a Lehman Russ does this great. A Monolith does this great. It's going to be able to sit there and shoot with low interaction onto it. Just be warned that over investing here can attract too much attention to your secure objective and sometimes move the kills. Like if you have a monolith sitting on what you think is your secure objective, that can suddenly turn the secure objective to your kill zone objective, in which case the monolith doesn't really want to be there. Now your opponent's applying basically this same strategy. So he thinks he has his secure objective, and you don't want to just give it to him on a silver platter. You need harassment. And harassment a lot to me too, but in 40k terms, I'm talking about the thing that it's going to annoy the hell out of your opponent and make him think that his secure objective isn't safe. So ideally what you're trying to look for when you have units that are going to be the harassment unit is you want to be able to almost do like feint attacks. You want to have the option to commit resources to this objective if your opponent doesn't defend it well enough, but you also want to get your opponent to send resources to this objective to defend it so you don't take it, but then have the speed to go somewhere else, like to the Killzone Objective, help that out, and then your opponent has all those wasted resources on the objective that you're kind of just giving them anyways. Because you don't want to get greedy. You're not trying to control every objective on the map. There's no reason to do that. You only need to control, like, for sure, two. If you control 2 objectives every single turn, like, you'll get 10 points a turn for 4 turns. That's really good for a primary score. You want to get that extra 3 every now and then, but there's no reason to actually go for 4. So these are units that you're trying to mess with your opponent, and they're not going to necessarily score for you, but you're trying to hinder his score with these units. So distraction Carnifex units are really good at doing this. If you send something really scary that just has to be dealt with, it can usually just go up there by itself, and you're going to make your opponent commit the resources to it. And just make sure that, you know, if you dedicated 300 points to doing that, hopefully he dedicates at least 500 in defending it, in which case you'll come out on top. So the hybrid fast units are good at doing this because they can do the feint attack a lot easier, but even sometimes just putting a ranged unit that's going to constantly shoot and be like, either you come off that objective and charge me, or I'm just going to shoot you the entire game till you're dead. So a great example, and what I think is one of the best units at doing the harassment objective, is Necron Warriors. So if you have a monolith and you have Necron Warriors and you have the monolith on your secure objective, you attack your opponent's what his secure objective is with the warriors. The monolith has the ability to teleport the warriors to the monolith, so you can send the warriors up. Your opponent will freak out and go, oh shit, there's warriors coming at me. He's going to devote a bunch of resources to defend that objective, and then once you're like, okay, you can have it if you want it that bad, then you teleport the warriors to your secure objective, and now he's got a bunch of his army on the wrong side of the battlefield.
Oh, Connell! It looks to me like I've got all the horses!
Hey, Benny! Looks to me like you're on the wrong side of the river!
So again, combos of MSU units are really good. So if you have Blade Guard backed by Eradicators, like, that can deal with most threats. Like, you can take out like heavy vehicles, you can take out infantry, you have something that can sit in the back and shoot while something else charges. It's only 200 points, and your opponent's gonna have to deal with that, or that can mess his day up. So your big single entity models work great for this too. If you want to just send a Norn emissary down there and just be like, I'm gonna get him to the objective as fast as I can, get that 5 feel no pain, and your opponent's gonna have to deal with it before that happens. So that's why he's just a great one to just send out there, leave him and forget him. He'll go off on his own adventure and just mess with things. But do remember that the goal of these units is not to really take this objective. You're trying to limit your opponent's ability to score. So anything that you can do, this is the unit's also going to focus on your opponent's small little deep striking units that are easy to kill, that are doing secondary objectives, things like that. But jet bikes have great shooting, and they're fast, where they can dish a lot of firepower into that your opponent's secure objective, and if it's not happening, they can move off to go help another spot. A battle wagon filled with boys, like, they got to kill the battle wagon, but then after they kill the battle wagon, there's going to be a bunch of, you know, orc boys on them. Again, squig hogs are great at this, but the point, squig hogs, if you have noticed, like, they work for so many of these different roles. That doesn't mean just throw squig hog units in your army. You're deciding what unit you're adding to do this thing. So if you add squig hogs, the squig hog can't be on the Killzone objective while it's on your secure objective, while it's doing the harassment objective and doing actions too. Like, it's got one job and you brought it for this reason. Same thing with Chosen and, you know, a Venom Crawler. Those are hybrid units that it can deal with whatever's in front of it. The Chosen have mortal wound out, or devastating wound output, and they can punch you and they can shoot you. Same with the Venom Crawler. And again, if you add too many points to this category, you're suddenly going to switch this objective, the harassment objective, into your secure objective. Because if you put too much power here, and your opponent's just going to go, okay, fine, it's yours, and now it's your secure objective and not the one that you were trying to harass any longer. So this is probably the easiest one to explain. That's your home objective. So the trick to having the unit that's going to be on your home objective is usually you want really low target priority. So something that's really cheap, like too insignificant to shoot at. A lot of times you're just gonna, like if it's a unit of cultists or something, you're just gonna hide it the whole game. Maybe use eliminators and you have the move, shoot, move thing. Indirect units work great for this because they can just hide. You want to keep these as safe as possible because you do not want to have to send something off the front lines to come back and reinforce your home objective. So now is a more advanced tip. When you're making this army, it's usually good to kind of spam a certain defense profile. So for example, you could put Devastators on your home objective and that could be fine. But if you put the Devastators on your home objective and you have a pure vehicle army, everything that your opponent has that's good at killing Marines from range is going to be focused on these things, in which case you do not hold your home objective very well. Versus if your entire army is made up of nothing but 2-wound Primaris Marines, there's going to be so much Primaris Marines pushing at your opponent, he'll be lucky if he has the shots to spare to shoot those Devastators there and back. So if you do have the problem where you're just worried that someone's going to shoot you off your home, just put 2 units there. You can, you know, instead of having a eliminator unit that's move, shoot, moving, you could just have 2 eliminator units, and if one of them does die, then you can hide the other one. So more examples are things like Ludas are only 50 points, so it's not really worth it to shoot Ludas with anything. Same Gretchen can hide all game. Cultists, Imperial Guard Mortar Team is great at doing this. Stern Guard or Devastator. Stern Guard can have the heavy keyword, so they can kind of sit in a ruin and they're not quite threatening enough to go out of your way to kill. Necron Doomstalker has that 4-up invuln, which is just, and he heals like crazy, so it's just kind of a pain to remove him. Plus he has his height, he can poke his head out from the side of the objective, have good cover. Same thing with a Warwalker. Warwalkers have their -1 to wound and 4-up invuln. It's pretty gambly if you're going to actually try to remove your opponent from the home objective. I still usually recommend 2 units or having a unit nearby that's going to be like, if your Doomstalker did die, I have this unit that could move to it. So these are the units you want to add now to the list. So now playing the game, fighting the map, scoring the primary, that's done. Like you can, at this point in your list, you should be able to look at your list and go, I might not have the most kill power, but I'm pretty confident that I'm going to do well on primary. Because you have to get a 10 a turn on primary. As soon as you start getting a 5, that's when you're going to quickly fall behind your opponent in points. So the next most important thing to add is going to be your action monkeys. So action monkeys are really cheap units. Usually they have deep strike, infiltrate. They're usually a really small man squad. If you have the ability to deep striking in a single model or a squad of 3 is a lot easier to fit into tight corners. But if you can't fit to where you need to go, you can always set yourself up so you can get there next turn by like deep striking behind a piece of terrain and then using your movement to get to where you want to go next turn. So a lot of the secondaries that you're going to draw are going to be requiring you to basically not fight and go for either moving to a certain place or doing an action. So things like, you know, behind enemy lines or engage on all fronts, cleansing objectives, deploying homers. I see a lot of people make these lists that are really strong, but they just don't have the ability to do every card. You should own the tactical cards. That's like, screw buying the codexes and all that stuff, but like the only thing I buy is just that pack of cards. Go through each objective and add the units that you think are going to be good at doing this, and then ask yourself, can I do this objective? How reliably can I do this one? Do I have a unit that's able to do cleanse each turn? Doing these secondaries are so much more important than doing almost any kind of damage. It's super rare that the answer was to attack with this unit instead of cleanse that objective. Just getting those points, especially when you can get multiple in a turn, can sometimes demoralize your opponent hardcore. When he sees he's 20 points down, that's when you start to see people leaning towards yielding, and they start to lose their confidence and they lose control of the battle. And because you followed this system, you have tons of control of the battle because everything in your list is doing a specific job and it's doing it really well. So one of the important things is make sure you keep this cheap, because you don't want to waste a 250 point or more unit on cleansing an objective. Like, that's a unit that needs to be attacking. So one of the best units in the game at doing this, but they are a little bit over that 100 point limit, is Inceptors. I give Inceptors a slide on the points thing because they can come within 3 inches of you, so it's so easy to get things like engage on all fronts, behind enemy lines, and even like the different actions that you have to do. Storm Boys, you know, they gotta be 9 inches away, but they're half the price of, less than half the price of Inceptors. Flayed ones and Death Marks, that's kind of thing. Infiltrators can do it quick, but they also have to be able to scoot around an army a lot of times to get in the back. So that's why I do generally prefer Death Marks for the deep strike ability over Flayed ones Infiltrate. Nerdlings are awesome. They're OC 0, and what makes Nerdlings are good, but the fact that they can't hold the objective is making people really focus on doing their secondaries portion, which is just paying off really well because it's what you should be doing. If you have the choice to possibly take this objective or do a secondary, like, the more choices you have in the game, the more likely you're going to pick the wrong one. So that's why Nurglings are just going to be naturally good. Same with Ripper Swarms, because Ripper Swarms can be in a squad of 1 now, and the Biovore can just, you know, place that free model back there that can get you engaged on all fronts and things. The Clidius Assassin, I think it is, the polymorphine one or whatever, that thing's amazing because not only doing all that utility, but it's scoring you secondaries too. So if you're playing an Imperial army, I'd probably add that to the list right now. But yeah, Rattling, Scions, Voidsmen, cheap things that can get places, and also things that are more annoying than they're worth to actually kill. So finally, this is the one that's new to 10th edition. The best strat in the game is no longer Interrupt. We don't really have the CP for Combat Interrupt, and Combat's not as big anymore. The best stratagem in the game is Rapid Ingress.
Oh yeah! Oh yeah! Yeah!
This is going to use this on your, basically your biggest, scariest melee powerhouse. You almost always want to add this to the list because it's super, super good at just applying pressure to your opponent and being proactive and making your opponent have to react to you. So how it works is at the end of your opponent's second turn, you're going to Rapid Ingress and you're going to drop this dude in, and he's going to come in behind somewhere safe, somewhere he cannot be shot, completely hidden behind cover. And hopefully he moves faster than 6 inches or something, but even if he doesn't, he's going to come 9 inches away, hopefully, maybe 11 or 12 inches because he had to hide somewhere. But then he's going to get his full move and a charge next turn, and your opponent's already moved, so you get to basically have a free engagement to your opponent that he can't do much about. So if you can't find a good hiding spot, that's the only time where this isn't that great, but you're putting this guy into strategic reserve. So if you have your Brutalis Dreadnought in strategic reserve, how it's working is you just come in 6 inches off a border edge that's not your opponent's deployment zone. So anywhere along the sides, you got to be 9 inches away, but you just show up behind that building where you can't be shot. Next turn, you'll do your move, do your charge. And I mean, you can clear half the board with that movement and the charge right there. You combine that with, Combat Doctrine or something so you can advance and charge, and now you can hit a really key target in melee very reliably. So in my opinion, hands down, the best unit in the game for doing Rapid Ingress is Mazrog. So Mazrog can just show up, he's going to use his huge movement, he's going to eat something. And he's so reliable at doing that. He's so hard to kill that even if you have to bring him in somewhere where your opponent can see him with some units, he's not going to die. He's very tanky. So things like the Nightbringer's not a very big model, so he can come in, sneak into really close places and just be right on your opponent the next turn. Things that have, short range weapons, like if you have a squad of 6 aggressors, you can put the 6 aggressors in strategic reserve. And now remember, you can only put 500 points in strategic reserve, but you can have the flame aggressors in there. Then they Rapid Ingress, then it's your turn, and they're going to move out, shoot their flamethrower, and then charge something and hit them with their fist. So Old One-Eye, just Old One-Eye by himself, he doesn't even need his Carnifex pal. He's a scary melee monster, and if you Rapid Ingress him in, he's just going to be right on your opponent. A squad of 8 bound can get in really tight places. You can rapid ingressing Blood Crushers, so they don't have to be in strategic reserve. They can have a natural deep strike, and that way you can bring them in to not only block your opponent or reinforce an objective, but the fact that you're going to be charging him to push him back. Avatar Arcane, that is one of my favorite ones too. He's really fun to Rapid Ingress. He's close to Mazrog, but Mazrog's just so good at killing. Brutalis Dreadnought is another one that's one of my up and coming new favorites. If you need to play more timid and you have more of a Death Star list or a kind of even a Castle-y list, you know, a Redemptor Dreadnought coming in out of Strategic Reserve, he's going to lose his first turn where he could have shot his gun first turn, but a lot of his guns aren't in range. So if he's units that aren't going to be in range first turn are great to rapid ingress, especially if they have that melee profile. So now, hopefully, your list that you have should be coming out to somewhere around, I'd say 1,200 to 1,500 points. If you have you have brought the units to do these specific jobs. You have, these are the units that are going to be going to the kill zone objectives. These are the units that are holding your secure objective. These are the ones that are going to be harassing your opponent's secure objective. These are your action monkeys. This is your rapid ingress unit. Once you can check all those boxes off, now you can do whatever you want. It's usually recommended that you add more teeth, but you're basically going to look at your list and view your confidence level on each of the 6 aspects. Like, how confident are you in your rapid ingress unit? Possibly upgrading him to something stronger. How well are you holding your home? If you have other long-ranged units and you want to add just some more teeth, these are units that are usually, almost everything you're adding right now is things that are not really going to be on the objective. They're going to be fighting off the objective, so if your opponent does want to pick a fight with them, he's fighting over nothing. The reason why this is so important is by making the list this way, everything trickles down. Now you'll have no problem with your deployment. So many people tell me that they think they deployed wrong or they struggle with their deployment, and that's because they're using a list made up of just good units and nothing actually has a place to do anything. When you build a list this way, you'll know these units are going to go to the middle because they want to go towards the fight. This is my harassment unit, so I'll be putting this on the right side. You'll have no issue deploying, and like when I deploy against my opponent, I rarely even look at what he's deploying. He just drops and then I drop. Like, I care more about where my units are than where his units are, because my units are doing the specific thing. The only thing I'm looking at my opponent's army for is to try to sense where he thinks his secure objective is going to be and where he basically has the weakest front, so I have an idea of where those units are supposed to go. But generally I'll just start by putting my big things going to the kill zone right away, because what is he going to do about it? So again, this is just part 1 of a series to help you not suck so bad at Warhammer, and I plan on going over everything from how to study better for Warhammer, how to engage in a game a little bit more intelligently, how to deploy your army, how to move your army, how to correct orders to shoot your army in, all kinds of things. I plan on even going and breaking down the value of a point in Warhammer when you use 2,000 points in a battle. And guys, the YouTube algorithm is rough. If you could just this, I know everybody asks to hit a like on the video, but if you could make one exception and actually do it this time, it would help me out so much. You get this information out to more people. Doing me that favor could do nothing but just give you good karma on your dice. And we all like rolling more 6s. Don't forget, if you really want your PhD in Warhammer, you got to stop by the War Academy Discord. We do tabletop sim games. We play all kinds of different games on Steam and Game Pass. We have a great meme channel, but we have a specific help guide channel for every single faction in 40K. So if you're struggling somewhere, if you have a question on something for anything, this is the place to ask it. If you want to help these videos come out faster, make sure you stop by my Patreon. Do it. I do offer one-on-one help for any of my Patreons. If you ever have a question on anything, I'll hop on Discord. I'll go over with whatever you need help with. But YouTube pays me next to nothing to make these videos, and they are a lot of work to make. Thank you so much for watching, and may your dice always roll 6s.
Bye, have a great time.